Hi, Phanessa here. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to crochet the cute and cuddly crewmate from the popular online game Among Us. If you're interested in the PDF pattern, go ahead and check out the box below. And there are links to my shops. So this is just a draft that I have here. Okay, so I'm going to use Yarnspiration's Bernat Blanket yarn. This is a category 6. So you do need some contrasting color for the goggles. The first two that I made, I used Big Twist Cuddle. It's it's similar to this yarn, and it was on sale, so I got this one first, and then I went back to purchase more of these ones. So I used a size L 8mm crochet hook, and you'll also need polyfill. You'll need stitch markers, preferably the ones that close so they don't fall out, a tape measure if you're planning to customize, a large eye tapestry needle that you can get the yarn through. Alright, let's get started. Usually I prefer to pull from in here, but you can't always find the end on the inside. I do try though, because it makes your life a lot easier. Oh well, you can't win them all. So here's the end for the outside. So we're going to start with the legs, and you'll make 2 of these. Okay, hold on to the tail end of your yarn. Grab your working yarn, wrap it around your finger over your tail, and insert your hook into the loop to grab the working yarn. And then you want to chain 1 to secure. So round 1, 6 single crochets into this ring. Insert your hook into the center of the ring, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. That's 1 single crochet. Insert your hook into the ring, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. So that's 2 single crochet. I'm working right over my tail. You can adjust the size of your ring by pulling on that tail. So go ahead and work 4 more single crochets into the ring. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now we have a total of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pull on your tail to tighten that center. Just be careful that you don't pull so hard you break the yarn, because I did that before. So we are now going to work in a continuous round. So this is the first stitch of round 1. We're not going to join, we're going to work right into that first stitch in a continuous round. So for round 2, you're going to work 2 single crochets in every stitch around, and you'll end with 12 single crochet stitches. So insert your hook into that first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now I'm going to place a marker here so I know where the first stitch is. I recommend using a closed marker if you're a beginner so that it doesn't fall off on you and you lose your spot. So we have 1 single crochet in the first stitch. We're going to work another single crochet in that same stitch. Second stitch, 2 single crochets. There's 1 and there's 2. So go ahead and work 2 single crochets in every stitch around. That was my last stitch. Here's the beginning of round 2. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 stitches. Now I'm going to work and increase every other stitch. So I'm going to work 1 single crochet in the first stitch, 2 single crochets in the second, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets. So we're going to repeat, increasing every other stitch all the way around, and you should end up with 18 single crochet stitches. So into the first stitch of round 3, work 1 single crochet, place your marker on that first stitch. In the second stitch, we're going to work 2 single crochets. There's 1 and 2. In the next, 1 single crochet. In the next, 2 single crochets. So go ahead and repeat that all the way around until your last stitch. Okay, you should end with 2 single crochets in the last stitch. From rounds 4 through 9, we're just going to work 1 single crochet all the way around. So into the first stitch, 1 single crochet. Now this is where I like to mark my stitches so that later I know how many rounds I've worked. You can still place a marker as you move up, but I'm just going to crochet rounds 4 through 9 in a continuous round with 1 single crochet in every stitch. If you want to adjust the size of your legs, just work less or more rounds. It's easily customizable. Just make sure that you work the same for the other side. So I'm going to secure the inside. So this is our beginning tail. I'm just going to weave this a little bit and secure it. Just tie a knot. Okay, I'm just going to leave that because it's going to be on the inside. Okay, so you can fasten off the first leg, and then I'm going to place a marker on the first stitch of round 10. So here is round 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then we're going to start 10 when we join the 2 legs together. So if you wanted to move your marker up as you go, that's fine, but you can easily see where the stitches are so that you can count up, since I'm not really making it that tall. So secure this and then work on your second leg. So the second leg, I'm done working rounds 4 through 9. Again, I'm going to place a marker on the very next stitch. Okay, so right there, and I've already secured my tail. So now we're ready to join our legs. So we're going to join by creating a bridge across. So with the leg that's still attached to your yarn, chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now I couldn't decide between chaining 3 or 2 because I tried different number of stitches. So it's really personal preference on how wide you want the legs apart. Just keep in mind that chain 3 will make it slightly bigger than chain 2, of course. So where we marked, we are going to work into the stitch before and the stitch that we marked, and we're going to work a single crochet 2 together. Okay, so into this stitch here, this stitch here, and the stitch we marked. So the last stitch of round 9 and the first stitch of round 10. So insert your hook into the same stitch you worked your last single crochet here. Then you want to yarn over and pull up a loop. I'm going to make sure that's tight. And then you're going to insert your hook right into the next stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Okay, the reason why I'm doing that is to avoid a gap. The first time I did this, I just went straight into this stitch and it created a little hole here that bothered me. Okay, now you're going to work the 17 stitches all the way around, and then we'll cross back this direction. I'm going to move this marker and mark this current round that we're working, so round 10. It's how I keep track when I'm moving forward. 1 single crochet in the next 17 stitches, so all the way around. Okay, so this is my last stitch here. I'm going to work 1 single crochet. Now I'm going to work 1 single crochet in each of these 3 chain stitches. They might be a little twisted, so just make sure it's not too twisted. Okay, so we chained 3 to work across to this side. You want to work 1 single crochet in each of these 3 chain stitches. Okay, it's a little hard to see with this yarn, but as long as you get your hook in there, you should be fine. Into the first chain stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. I'm going to make sure that that's tight, yarn over, pull through 2. Into the next chain stitch, work 1 single crochet. And then into the last chain stitch, 1 single crochet. Okay, so just like we did here where we worked a single crochet 2 together, I'm going to do the same right here on this side. So I'm going to work a single crochet 2 together into this stitch here and this stitch. And I want to make sure that this single crochet 2 together is tight. So inserting my hook into that last stitch of round 9, I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop, and then into the first stitch of round 10 on this leg, insert my hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Now you work 1 single crochet in each of the next 17 stitches. So that's the last stitch, and now we're back to the chain 3. So we worked 3 single crochets on the other side. We're going to work 3 single crochets on this side. And these 3 single crochets will be the last 3 stitches of round 10. Okay, starting with the first chain stitch here, work 1 single crochet. I'm going to make sure that's tight. Into the next chain stitch here, 1 single crochet, and then into this last chain stitch, 1 single crochet. That is the last stitch of round 10. So we started here, so we chained 3, and then our first stitch started here for round 10. We went all the way around. That's 18 stitches, and then 3 here, 18 here, and 3 here. So now we have 42 stitches. So now we're just going to work around the leg over across these 3 and around this leg, and then ending here for each round. So your first stitch is actually on the right of this leg here where I marked. So if you look here, this was the first stitch of round 4, and then I marked right here for round 10, and you always want to insert to the right of the leg. And if you're not sure, just make sure you count your stitches. So right into the first stitch, work 1 single crochet. It's hard to see because I worked a single crochet 2 together with the last stitch in order to prevent a huge gap. Okay, so just work 1 single crochet all the way around. Remember, there's 18 stitches on each leg. So now these 3 single crochets, I'm just going to work right into the first stitch here. and then the second stitch here, and then the next stitch. Okay, now I'm going to work around this leg 18 stitches. Okay, so same thing here, just make sure that you're working into the correct stitch. Okay, so into the next stitch here, and then 1 single crochet all the way around. Okay, so that is round 11. So you're just going around and around all the way. Eventually it'll become more of an oval. So I'm going to just stuff the legs a little bit. So everything I'm using is linked in the description box. They are affiliate links, which means that I earn a little commission when you use the links. It doesn't cost you anything, and it doesn't store or collect any of your information. But it does help support my channel so that I can continue to provide video tutorials. Okay, so now you're just going to work around and around. There is 42 stitches. Again, you can mark the first stitch of every round, and so I worked until round 27. So this is 11. Continue working in a continuous round until you finish round 27. Okay, so I have worked 27 rounds, including the legs. So I marked every 5 rounds so that I can keep track of the number of rounds I'm working. If you want to adjust the size, you can work less rounds or more rounds depending on your preference. So we'll start decreasing from here. So it's not that much taller than what you see here. Now, if you prefer to sew on the backpack before you close it up, then go ahead and skip forward to the instructions for the backpack. I'm going to close it up first and then sew on the backpack later. So you're going to want to stuff the rest of the body. I mean, you still have time later when you're almost done closing to stuff it. This is when I like to shape the legs, make sure I have enough in there. Okay. So now we can start decreasing and shaping the top of the head. For the first round of decrease, we're going to work 4 single crochets, and then we're going to work a single crochet 2 together, which we did down here where we worked 2 stitches into 1. So 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can mark your first stitch here. Now we're going to work a single crochet 2 together over these 2 stitches. Insert your hook into the first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. Insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Okay, so you're going to repeat that all the way around, working 4 single crochets and then a single crochet 2 together. Okay, so you should end with single crochet 2 together. Round 2, you're going to work 3 single crochets and then a single crochet 2 together. So that's 1, 2, 3. So this is our last single crochet 2 together right here. What's going to start happening is the space between the stitches are going to start getting bigger. So starting round 2, I'm going to work my single crochet 2 together into the post of these stitches, meaning we're going to work between these V stitches instead of through here where we would normally work our stitch. So I've used waistcoat stitch in several of my beanies actually. So it would be working into the post just like the waistcoat stitch. So a couple of my beanies decrease with the waistcoat stitch. So this would be exactly like that. So we're going to work a single crochet 2 together over these two, working into the post of the stitch. So it's always the post to the left of the actual stitch. So right into this post here, so in between this V shape, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. So because this is a single crochet 2 together, I'm going to go through both of these. So the V is actually right here and the next one is here. So I'm going to insert through both of these loops this direction and then through the back. Okay, now I'm going to yarn over and pull through all three. Now I played with different stitches to close this up because I don't usually make toys, and I found that this was the best way to minimize the holes that you get from decreasing. Okay, so now we're going to repeat, working 3 single crochets and then a single crochet 2 together. So you can, instead of just using the waistcoat in the decrease, you can work the waistcoat into every single stitch. You can even do the whole body in waistcoat stitch. It'll probably give it a stiffer fabric. I'll leave a link for the waistcoat stitch if you're interested in that. Again, this pattern is very adjustable. So I'm going to repeat 3 single crochets and then a single crochet 2 together. So 1, 2, and 3. Again, I'm going to work into the post of this stitch and this stitch. Again, this is a decrease from the last round. So I'm going to insert my hook into this post here. This is the next stitch and it's the post to the left. Okay. Make sure that this stitch here is tight because you don't want extra gaps. And then now this is the decrease, so we're going to insert through both of these loops here. There's one and there's the second, and then you're going to go right through to the back. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3. So repeat that all the way around, 3 single crochets and 1 single crochet 2 together. So I'm at the end of the round. Here's my last 2 stitches that I'm going to decrease, and I'm going to work right through the post. Here's the first one right there, and then the last stitch here I'm going to go through both of these loops because this was the decrease from the previous round. Okay, round 3, we're going to now work 2 single crochets and a decrease. There's 1 and 2. Again, I'm going to decrease working into the post. There's the first one. And again, you want to work through 2 loops for the second one. One, 2, and decrease through the post. Single crochet 2 together. Okay, so repeat all the way around. Last stitch, I'm going to work my decrease working through the posts instead of the normal stitch. The next decrease will be every other stitch. So 1 single crochet and then single crochet 2 together. Again, if you want a more gradual decrease, go ahead and work one round of just single crochet stitches between each of the decrease. So you may want to stop even lower. Okay, that was the last stitch for this round. So you want to stuff it and then just leave some space for when you're closing up. Okay, so just wanted to give you an idea of how the top is decreasing. Okay. For round 5 of decrease, I'm going to start working into the post for every single stitch because it's going to start to stretch. So right here is my last stitch. This is my first. I'm going to work into the post. So here's the first stitch. This is the post right here. So work into the post, 1 single crochet, and then into the post for your decrease. There's 1 and there's 2. Oops. And here's the next V right here, or next post. You can switch to a smaller hook. Sometimes that helps minimize the holes as well. So just work 1 single crochet and then a decrease all the way around. Okay, so that's as far as I'm going to go. I'm going to fasten off and start on the backpack. So I'm going to leave a tail so that I can weave it in. Just put your yarn through the loop and pull tight. I'm not going to close this just yet. You can if you want. I'm just going to stuff the remaining part of the head. You don't want to overstuff it because then you'll have really big gaps, but you do want to keep in mind that over time this is going to get squished and go down just a little bit. Okay, now we're ready to work on the backpack. So before I begin the backpack, this is how I determined what size I want it, so that if you're adjusting, you can follow these instructions and make the size that you need. If you're just following the pattern, you can skip past this part and move on to the start of the backpack. So it's going to be a rectangle from here to here. So I'm going to move this stitch into the center. Remember we chained 3 to join the legs. So this was the first stitch of round 10. Okay, so this was the first stitch. These 3 are the center stitches. So here is the middle stitch. I'm going to mark it right about here, just to let me know where the center is. Okay. Now, depending on how far out you want your backpack, you want to make sure you mark evenly this way and this way. So then I decided, okay, I want my backpack to go right about here. I think I want it to be sewn right here. So along this line here, I want the backpack to come down just to this line. Okay, so this was the center stitch. You can tell it's starting to go to the right. Naturally, working in the round, your stitches will slant to the right if you're working in a continuous round. If you eyeball it, it would be the stitch to the left. Okay, that's how I centered it. You can do this however you want. So right here is the center based on my eyeballs. And now I want to count 5 stitches this direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to place a marker here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and place a marker here. So those are going to be the corners of my backpack. Now you want to do the same thing for up here. Where do you want your backpack to stop? I think for me, I want it to stop about right here. So this stitch already marks the spot that I want. If not, just go ahead and mark it. And then what you're going to do is follow this up. Okay, so here's the stitch I marked for the corner. You follow that stitch up here, and then you want to move one to the left. Again, because it naturally slants to the right, so you want to make sure that you even it out. So this one, I'm going to follow it up here and then mark the stitch to the left. I'm going to remove this. So now I have my 4 corners. So I'm going to count my stitches. There's 11 stitches across here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 rows up. So when I worked the backpack, I went in this direction, back and forth. So I have 11 stitches here. I want to make sure that I have 9 stitches total, so that when I work the side edges, that's my additional 2 stitches. Then for the number of rows, I'm working 10 rows because you're going to work around the side and end up making another row up here or down here, depending on how you attach it. And if that was just super confusing, just follow the pattern. It's the same size. Okay, so you want to start with a slip knot. I'm going to chain 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I said we needed 9 stitches, but I'm chaining 10 because you always work into the second chain, and then that decreases 1 stitch. So 1 single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So here is the first chain here. It's a little hard to see with this fluffy yarn. There's 1 and there's 2. So I like to work through the back. You don't have to. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. So you're going to work 1 single crochet in every chain stitch across, and you should end with 9 single crochets. Okay. All right, here's my last stitch. So I have 9 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, row 2, chain 1 and turn. The chain 1 does not count as a stitch. Now I'm just going to work 9 single crochets across. So into the first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. Okay, into every stitch across, work 1 single crochet. Okay, so for rows 3 through 10, you're just going to repeat row 2. So chain 1 and turn, 1 single crochet in every stitch across. You can always place this right on the back to see if you like the size. That's pretty much what I did. And I ended up increasing it a little bit because I started off with a smaller number. So you can just place it and see if it's good enough for what you want. Again, when you crochet along the sides, you're going to basically put another row of single crochet here and another row of single crochet here. So keep that in mind when you're placing it on your actual project to see how big it is. Okay, so just go ahead and repeat, working 1 single crochet in every row. So I'm going to work 10 rows instead of 11 because we will add an additional row to the top or the bottom. And at the end of row 10, it's going to be slightly different because we're going to start crocheting along the sides. Okay, so that was my 11th row. Okay, so this is my 10 rows and 9 stitches. I didn't work into the last one. Again, because we're going to start working along the side, you want to work 2 single crochets into the last stitch. So 1, 2. Now we're going to work along the side. So we have 10 rows. You're going to work 9 stitches, and then into the last row you're going to work 2 single crochets. So here's the first one, and I'm just looking for any space here, 2. So I'm putting the single crochets in between each row. So here's the first one, here's the second one, and then this is going to be the third one, and then the 4 right in between these 2 rows, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, again on the 9th one we're going to work 2 single crochets, 1, 2. Now along the bottom edge here, and this is what I was talking about, we're going, or the top edge depending on how you look at it, we're going to work single crochets across here. So there's 9 stitches. So we're going to work 1 in each of the first 8 and then 2 in the last stitch. So you might lose this stitch a little bit when you work your last 2 stitches. I just pulled out one here. So that was 2 single crochets into the last stitch. And then your first single crochet is here. If you're not sure, just count back. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, 1 single crochet in each of the next 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and this was our foundation row. 4. Yours may look different if you didn't work through the back of your foundation. I worked through the back so I could see these stitches that look more like a regular single crochet. So you'll just see 1 loop if you didn't work through the back. Okay, I'm coming up to the last stitch. I'm going to work 2 single crochets. 1, 2. Okay, so now we're going to work along this side. So we're going to work 9 single crochets and then 2 into the last one. Okay, so into the space here, 1 single crochet, and then 1 single crochet across in every row. So here's the 9th stitch. Into the 10th row we're going to work 2 single crochets. 1, 2. Now we're going to join to this very first stitch here. So work a slip stitch. So now we're going to work back post single crochets. So we're going to insert the hook from behind, and here's the post. Then you're going to go back into this side and then you work your single crochet. So let me place this back on. Okay, so you're going to insert from behind around the post. Okay, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So we're going to work behind these stitches around the post of every stitch. So behind the next post and work 1 single crochet. So you want to make sure that you go over your working yarn to go around the post. Okay, we're just working around the post from the back. So 1 back post single crochet in every stitch across. So what that does is it's going to go in this direction. Now if this is too difficult, you can just work into the back loop. Let me just show you quickly what that looks like. Okay, so it's still going in that direction, except that this one I think is a little bit better because it folds in more than this one does. Again, it's all personal preference. Okay, so go ahead and work one back post double crochet all the way around. So you're going to work all the way around back to this side. So I am done with my back post single crochet stitches. Now if you want the backpack this thick only, you can stop here. I'm going to crochet another round of just single crochets to make it a little bit thicker. So I still need to join to the first single crochet. So I'm going to remove my marker, insert it from behind, and then grab the loop, place it on your hook, and then pull it through. So you want to chain one and then work one single crochet in every stitch around. Okay, so I'm at the end. This is my last stitch here. I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the first stitch here. Again, I'm going to work from behind, grab the loop, and pull it through. Okay, so now you want to fasten off, leaving twice as much yarn as the circumference of your backpack. So that's one and then two right here. So to sew this, I'm going to use a bent tapestry needle just to help me get in and out of the stitches easier. So I'm going to place this on the bottom because I don't want you to be able to see it. It's a little hidden if it's down here. So what I'm going to do, there's the markers for my corners. I'm going to go under and up on this stitch. Okay. Now I'm going to go, so the stitch is coming from here. I'm going to go right up the stitch next to it and then down this stitch here. Okay. And then right here, I'm going to go back into this hole here. That's where this one's coming out of. And then up the next one, like that. And then up here, back into the same stitch and down the next. So it's a mattress stitch. And then you can just pull to tighten. Don't pull too hard, it'll snap. So I recommend pulling every 3 stitches or so. So back into this one here. So I'm going back down this one and back out here. And back up the same stitch. And down the next. Okay, into the same stitch down here, out the next. So just repeat that all the way across. So right there, it's tighter now. So I'm coming up to the last stitch here that I marked. That's going to happen. Okay, so here's the last stitch. I'm going to go in here and back up. And then if you look here, you can see that's starting to curve. So this is where my last yarn is coming out of. You can choose to make a square or sort of a curve. I just went back in here diagonally. So from here across this way diagonally. And then back up here. Back down. Now I'm just going to follow this stitch up to about the mid 2 stitches, and then I'm going to cross over. Remember, we marked 1 stitch to the left, so I'm going to go up here. So right about here, I'm on the 5th round here. I'm going to cross over. So here is my stitch coming out of this space here. I'm going to cross over diagonally to the left of this stitch. If you feel like this is too long of a tail, you can do them in sections. Just make sure you secure each section so that it doesn't unravel. So I'm going to go diagonally right here where the stitch marker is because of the curve of my backpack. And I'm pulling stuff out. That's why I left this open. In case I pull too much out, I can stuff some more in there. Now I'm just going to go across this direction. So I'm at this corner now. So where the marker is, I'm going to go diagonal right there. Okay. And then we have this last edge here, and I'm going to stop about right here so that I can stuff it, or you can probably stuff some right now. So for this, I don't want it too thick. I just want to make sure there's enough to hold its shape, but I don't want it bulging out. Okay, so you could fix that. Okay, I just want to make sure that it gets to the corners. I'm trying to smooth out and lessen the amount in the middle. Okay. So again, we're going to go about halfway, and then we're going to hop over 1 stitch. Okay, so right about here, I'm going to cross over 1 stitch back in that direction. I keep forgetting to tighten this. Please don't forget, because if you pull it, it's too tight, you're gonna break the yarn, and I did that. Okay, I have a small teeny hole. I'm going to just stuff a little bit here in the corner. Make sure that this corner is stuffed. Okay, so that's good for me right there. So then I'm going to close this up. And then I'm going to insert right below the backpack, okay? And then I'm going to wrap my needle with the yarn, and I'm going to secure it that way. Oops. Okay. So you want it tight, but don't pull too much. It'll break, so you can't really see it. Now I'm just going to run it through all the way through the other side of the backpack, or even through the body. It's up to you. And there. So you can tug on this so that it goes back in. You can shove it in with your finger, or you can just cut it off. Whatever's easiest for you. For me, probably cut it off. Okay, if you tug on it, it'll go in. All right, so we have the backpack in place. So I'm going to remove my markers. And then we still have to close up the head, and we have the goggles. Okay, so there's the backpack. Again, if you want to make it bigger or wider or taller, you can customize it to your liking, or to your child's liking. So now we have to decide where we want the goggles. Again, I'm going to look for the center stitch, which is this one here. I'm going to mark my center stitch. I'm going to be honest, I didn't write down the pattern for this part. It was late at night. My son really wanted to show his teacher for Halloween. So I didn't write it down. So we're going to wing it together. Okay, so mark it here and mark it here. That's where how wide I want it. So you can hold it back from yourself to see if you like the placement. So actually, see, holding it up, I think that's too big or too wide. So I'm going to move it up one. So I'm happy with the size of 4 rounds. Now I'm going to find my edges here. So this is the center. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that's good. Okay, so let's crochet the goggles. Start with a slip knot, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Into the second chain, here's the first, there's the second. Going into the top or back loop, work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, 1 single crochet. You can mark your first stitch here. Into the last chain stitch here, we're going to work 3 single crochets. Okay, so that's going to turn our work to the bottom side of the foundation. Now we're going to mark the center of those 3 stitches. Work 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. 1, 2. Don't worry if you don't insert your hook exactly where it needs to be, as long as you have your stitch count and it looks good. This yarn is pretty forgiving. So into this last stitch here, we're going to work 2 single crochets. 1, 2. So you're going to mark this last stitch, which is the opposite end of this stitch. Round 2, 2 single crochets into the first stitch. Move your marker. 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. 1, 2. In the next stitch, we're going to work 2 single crochets. 1, 2. In this center stitch here where we marked, we're going to work 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to mark that center of the 3. Into the next stitch, we're going to work 2 single crochets. 1, 2. 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. 1, 2. 2 single crochets into the next, and then into this marked stitch here, 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to mark the center of those 3. Round 3, 2 single crochets in the first stitch. 1, 2. Mark the first stitch there. Into the next 4 stitches, we're going to work 1 single crochet in each of the next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Into the next stitch, we're going to work 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet, 3 single crochets. 2 single crochets, 1, 2, 1 single crochet, and then 3 in here, in where we marked 2 and 3. I'm going to mark the center of those 3. 1 single crochet in the next, 2 single crochets. We want to match the other side. 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet, and then where we marked, 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Mark the center of those 3 stitches, and then finally 1 in the last. Okay, for the next round, 2 single crochets into the first stitch. 1, 2. 6 single crochets along the edge here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 single crochets in each of the next 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1 single crochet in each of the next 3. 1, 2, 3. 2 single crochets in each of the next 2, so 2 in each. 1, 2, 1, and 2. Okay, and then 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 single crochets in each of the next 2. 1, 2, and then 1, 2. 1 single crochet in each of the next 3. 1, 2, 3, 2 single crochets in the last 1, 2. Okay, I'm happy with the size, so I'm going to join with a slip stitch with my hook from behind. And now we're going to work 1 back post single crochet all the way around like we did here, except we're not going to work a second round. I don't want it that thick. So we're going to start with the first post stitch right here. Okay, around the first post, 1 single crochet, second post, and every post around 1 single crochet. Just like we did with the backpack, working from behind. So single crochet but back post. Again, you can choose to work through the back loops if you prefer that method. Go ahead and work all the way around. Okay, I'm going to slip stitch to the first stitch and I'm going to insert my hook from behind. And then we want to make sure we have at least double the length around our goggles. Just yarn over and pull through to tighten. I'm going to remove this marker. Again, I'm going to place this on here. It's a little bit bigger than what I marked, but that's okay because I did place this on as I was working it and I'm okay with the size. Okay, so before I do that, I'm going to remove this marker right here. I'm going to move it up 1. I'm just going to move this down so that I can see it and I'm not sewing over it. Okay. So it looks like I should move this one out as well. Again, I'm going to place this on the bottom. So I'm going to start here. And if you really want to make sure you're centered, you can count your stitches and then make sure it's centered here, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. Again, same concept. You're going to insert through there, back up here, and back down. So using the mattress stitch. Okay, up this side. And then just work this all the way around. I'm not going to spend too much time on this since we already went through this with the backpack. You could even pin this down to it if you wanted to. Before you close it up, don't forget to stuff a little bit of filler in there. Not too much. I mean, unless you like it bulging out like that. Just a little bit. And then I'm going to run it, I'm just going to run it through the back. So if you just pull it a little bit out and cut it, it's going to pop back inside. So now we just have the top. So if you need to stuff more, go ahead and do that. I think I'm pretty good on mine. So now we're going to just insert our needle through the remaining stitches. This is just like how I close my beanies. Okay, through that one, back up this one, through in that one. And there are accessories that you can put on here, like hats and some other weird stuff that I saw in the game. So I'm going to pull this tight. This is where I broke the yarn, so be careful not to pull too tight. So if you have any gaps up here, any holes, you can just use your yarn to kind of weave through the holes. Like here, let's see. There's a hole here, so I'm going to go under this and over to this side. Well, I can't see it from here where I'm standing. Just kind of helps close that hole or make it less visible. Okay. All right, I'm going to secure it and then I'm done. Okay. So right through there. Make sure I tie a knot. And then I'm going to put this through and just through somewhere else over here. Again, pull it up a little bit, cut it, and it'll pop right back in. All right, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed making this little guy. And if you haven't, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you are notified every time I post a video. Okay, so I'll see you